expanding conflict in West Asia. We're joined by Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain, retired, a strategic and security affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. General Hasnain, Netanyahu has just said that nowhere in the Middle East is out of reach of Israel. What does this imply? I mean, they are already fighting on so many fronts, 3 fronts, if I'm not wrong.
Well, Mark, I think what Prime Minister Netanyahu has actually said is that he's capable of fighting as many as 7 fronts. They're already fighting in Gaza, they're fighting on the northern front in Lebanon, they have also started targeting the Houthis in Yemen, and obviously the largest target which is being threatened at the moment is the state of Iran. So there are lots and lots of areas which are Israel is a nation of 9.5 million people, as we are aware, surrounded by a flock of Arab nations. Not all the Arab nations are necessary adversaries. Lots of them are partners in many ways, some of them even as a part of the Abrahamic Accords. But the current crisis is primarily between the Palestinians in the Hamas, Palestinian group in Gaza, and the Hezbollah group, which is not a Palestinian group. It's essentially a Lebanese Shia group sponsored by Iran. And obviously Israel has hit back after the 7th October incident which happened in just off Gaza. And it has taken them almost a year to stabilize Gaza with a primary doctrine of shock and awe, domination, complete domination without looking at anything to do with the degradation of other areas, the collateral, etc. So as a result of this, the Israelis are riding high at the moment militarily and in a position to actually threaten most of the adversaries that they have in the Middle East.
General Hasnain, Russia seems to be hinting at supporting Iran at a time like this. Now, what happens if Iran and Syria get directly involved?
You see, I would like to remind our viewers that the Russians got involved in 2015 also in northern Iraq at the height of the Syrian civil war to protect their own interests, particularly the port of Latakia on the Mediterranean, etc. But at that particular time, Russia was not involved in any other war or any other standoff. Today, most of the Russian army is involved in Ukraine. All their assets, military equipment and assets have gone into Ukraine. They've even pulled out the troops from Central Asia. They are importing weaponry from China, North Korea, from Iran itself. I'm not sure how much of a position Russia is in to actually extend military support. Political support is something different. Yes, they can extend political support in the United Nations, in the Committee of Nations around the world, in the Security Council, etc. But beyond that, to militarily support Iran at this time, I would say even the Russia-China combined has a very limited scope of being able to extend a hand to Iran, because China does not get itself physically involved with any kind of warfare in the Middle East.
General Hasnain, also, the elimination of the top leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah, is this a mortal blow for them? Or, are these groups in a position to recover if Israel keeps on the pressure? In fact, who is basically supporting them, because they seem to be surviving?
Obviously, the support to both Hamas and to Hezbollah has primarily come from Iran, and Iran's doctrine of war as essentially of what is called a proxy war, fighting through proxies rather than doing a direct war. Iran does not enjoy a common border with Israel, so that is the only way that Iran can actually target Israel, and Israel itself can target Iran only indirectly through missilery or rocketry, etc. But as to the question about effectiveness of Hezbollah and Hamas, after the killing of Ismail Haniyeh and almost a very large segment of the Hamas leadership, we have seen almost 10, 11 leaders of the Hezbollah being taken off in portions of Damascus in Syria itself, and now in Beirut itself. If you compare this, you see both these organizations are slated in the world as terrorist organizations. If you compare them to the Al-Qaeda, for example, when Osama bin Laden was taken out, we thought Ayman al-Zawahiri may be able to take his position and perhaps may take Al-Qaeda to the next level. That never happened. So whoever is the founder, whoever is the one who's running that organization for a fairly long time, he's an icon within that organization. His neutralization has an adverse effect on the fighting capabilities of that organization. And there's no doubt about it that Hezbollah's capability to fight back at this time is deeply degraded, just as the case of Hamas is.
General Hussain, do you see a diplomatic resolution possible at this stage?
No, Mark, I don't at all foresee such a possibility. I think the elephant in the room at the moment is the American election itself. Nothing can probably, no major decision will take place. We find a lame duck kind of a government which is existing in the United States at the moment. I don't think anything which President Biden is saying today is really meant to be executed. It is something to show diplomatically to the world. But I think a large-scale sanction has been given to Israel to go ahead and degrade its adversaries to that extent that at least in the near future, they are not in a position to fight back against Israel at any time.
If we are talking about expansion, regional expansion or regional escalation, Prime Minister says that that should be prevented. Our Prime Minister Modi, that is. When we look at the large number of Indians living in West Asia, how much of a concern is this for us?
Mark, there's no doubt about it. For us, the Middle East is a very important area. We have a diaspora of about 8.5 to 9 million people living all over the Middle East. We have remittances coming there to the tune of about $45 billion every year. So stability of the Middle East is always good news for India. So when the Prime Minister and Prime Minister Modi has invested a lot of time and energy in the stability of the Middle East, our relationship with different countries, with Israel, with Saudi Arabia, with the UAE, and even with Iran to that matter. So when he rings up and advises Prime Minister Netanyahu that there should be no escalation and spread of conflict into the other areas, he obviously means serious business. We are looking at possibly, for example, the Israeli escalation towards Yemen. We've seen today a firing of a couple of missiles, and even the Israeli Air Force has taken out a couple of targets in South Yemen. There is obviously the biggest specter, the biggest danger which is looming ahead is the possibility of an escalation by which Israel ultimately hits Iran. If that happens, it won't be alone. It will probably be with a sizable element of the US armed forces, which are also on the alert at the moment and are ready in the Middle East. So if that happens, we can see a massive escalation taking place, a huge rise in oil prices, and these are the kind of things which will affect us very, very adversely. India's 7% growth, or looking at a $5-10 trillion in the economy. It all depends on how stable these areas remain, how energy prices remain at this particular time. So we all share our Prime Minister's concern about the possible of escalation.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, retired. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.